special guest. We have Benjamin Watts with us, or otherwise known as Caveat Magister.
So I've been asked to say a few words about psychomagic. Let's first start by just talking about what psychomagic is in the first place. Psychomagic as a term was coined by Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Welcome to Shite Dreams.
Hey guys, we're back for episode 3. This one's going to be brought to you by Tyler Dolan, who's going to have 3 topics, I believe, that we will again dissect, go over, share our opinions. Again, a reminder, this is Shared Dreams, where dreams are shared. Tyler Dolan, take it away.
Okay, so this first chapter we're looking at focused a lot on creativity versus predictability, or infinite gardens versus finite robots. Now, immediately, this was something that stood out to me because I very much feel like I'm a finite robot. And in school, I felt like it. In my job, I felt like it. And I don't think that's a unique experience to me. I think a lot of people in certainly areas like business or economics and things like that, you are kind of trained to become that. So it'll be interesting to read about getting out of that and some other opinions. But just for those who don't know, the idea is a finite robot is doing something efficiently and standardized. You have a task, you're doing it well, but you're not doing anything outside of that. An infinite garden would be doing something, again, it can be efficient, it can be good, but you're not just doing a standardized task. You're going to do something that's ever changing, creative, growing, and might not just be predictable. So creativity versus predictability. Now, the idea that he wanted to get us from the chapter, I'm going to paraphrase it a bit. But he's telling us that we're not trying to build a robot. We're trying to create a garden. You're not trying to get a predictable result. You want to create an environment in which beautiful and surprising things happen. Now, this can apply to companies and anything like that. The first thing I want to talk about is, how has your life prepared you to become a finite robot? And do you think you're going to remain in this mindset?
I think this ties nicely with our last topic on professors in the school system and sort of parroting back what exactly what they want. And I think the school system from very adolescence has had such a impact on everyone's lives, and anyone that goes to the regular school system, the influence of the schools has sort of created their own garden in which all our beliefs and learnings are sort of structured in. And I think that's almost terrifying because the school has such a big impact on every generation to come, the school system, and they haven't created the regular school system, public school system hasn't created the garden, the infinite garden where we can express creativity and we can express, because like we said, a lot of professors or teachers or whatever it is create the syllabus that they just want you to follow. And so it's so structured that I feel like the school system has played such a huge role in creating us as finite robots. You're in high school and you get in grade 9, you have to decide what you want to do with your life, and then you have to go to university or else you're not going to be successful or whatever they say. And I think it's because if you go to university, if you don't go to university, you're not in the system anymore. So you're not in their garden. So you're free to think whatever they want, whatever you want.
And to be fair, though, that comes with, if you want to take this some higher up garden who's planning everything, that comes with punishments. Mm-hmm. Going to university means you can't, they still pitch that you can't get a good job, you can't get a house, you can't. So not following it, they've kind of made it so that it comes with 100%. A lot of punishments.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and I think a lot of careers I would be in the realm of that finite garden. Most people's lives are of that finite robot or garden.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think society normalizes the idea of becoming a finite robot and criticizes the transition to the infinite garden, being creative. Society promotes the life of a finite robot by endorsing life paths such as university, 9-to-5 work habits, all that stuff, which are all very linear and standardized. Whereas society denounces life paths associated with the infinite garden, so stuff related to creativity. Such as becoming an artist, people criticize that in society. Also, avoiding traditional education is often criticized by many. and these can all lead to creativity and growth, but they're all like diminished.
So I'll move on. I have a question. I think welcoming Matt to the podcast. I have a question for Matt, someone who does look at a lot of companies. I want to look at people who maybe created very successful things. Do you think that the most successful companies are people who
It's a good question, Tyler, and hello everyone, hello listeners. I think this actually looks back to what we were just talking about before. As a university student, I think what I find especially contradictory with this element of creativity they try to promote here is that you're still glued to things like rubrics. They'll say, "Oh, come up with X idea, Y idea." You're still marked on this static list of requirements.
So come up with any product you want, but it has to follow all these things.
Right. There's only so many possibilities.
Exactly. So, moving back to your question, you think about the best innovators in the world, right? Like the Packards, the Jobs, the Wozniaks of the world. They created their own gardens, or dare I say garages, right? And with this, I think what makes it truly special is what they did is they said, I don't want to go with the traditional path. I don't want to be locked in by these restrictions. They took it upon themselves to take their own initiative, say, screw the boxes, screw the lines, screw whatever is in my way. And they just did what they wanted and created the future. So that's my take. So to answer your question, yes, I do think they created their own.
And what's kind of funny to me is that basically every garden I can think of, it involves a lot of finite robots. Like if you want to have an active, like if you want to go create your dream company and you're innovating the world, and Steve Jobs has this concept of everyone, you need to have a whole bunch of finite robots to follow that and actually do it.
Yeah.
We're talking about someone creating a school system that makes us all finite robots. Well, someone created that. This is their garden, and they're loving it.
Yeah, you can't have infinite garden without finite robots.
Yeah, it's just kind of neat. So I mean, it comes to like your wolf or sheepdog, or whatever you want to call it. A lot of them are sheep, and you wouldn't have a sheepdog if you didn't have sheep. And the wolf would die if there weren't sheep. Yeah. But it all kind of relates to each other.
Yeah, I love it.
But we'll move forward a bit on maintaining reality. This was a little bit shorter, but the idea came in, and it's about psychomagical experiences. So the best psychomagical experiences are real, and they need to maintain that nonfiction reality. So take Disney World, and they are probably the best example in the world of someone who create a magical experience and have it be fake. And they invest hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, into actors and perfect rides, and they'll make all of their food things from the movie. Everything will be perfect. But at the end of the day, you're going through Disney and you still know it's fake. So it's magical, and maybe when you're a kid and can't quite comprehend that it's fake, it's very magical. But for us now, it's cool, but it's still not as cool. And the example he gave in the book is if you just went and broke into Disney after hours and started playing around, that would always be infinitely more fun and magical than anything Disney can do. Because it's real, it's unique. You're doing something. So I'm just kind of curious if you've ever done something or been in a position where someone was able to effectively maintain reality and create this psychomagical experience, and how it wouldn't have applied.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I used to play this video game. It was like a snowboarding video game. And in this video game, you could do anything. Best snowboarder in the world. It was the funnest game ever. It was practical, it's convenient, it's very accessible. But it wasn't until I went on a snowboarding trip with my parents that I had a really memorable experience, way more memorable than playing a video game. Because like a real scenario, like a reality, they created a meaningful psychomagical experience, while the nonfiction aspect of the snowboarding trip was able to fabricate like a memorable experience with my parents and have a better time than just playing a video game at home and doing that. So,
yeah. Now, the example that I instantly thought about, have you guys ever seen the movie The Prestige?
No.
Some yes and some no. So basically, they are unfortunately the one not in it has seen it, but two magicians, and one of them actually is able to create what I'll just describe as a supernatural trick. They are actually able to clone themselves. So you can have a magician, and you can say, "Oh, over here," and then poof. They show the trick is they show themselves on the other side of the room. But with the audience, they're smart enough to realize that they can't do something, even though they're doing something impossible, which the audience would be fiction. they have to maintain a certain level of reality to keep it interesting. For example, they don't just show a move from here and show a clone over there. That wouldn't be, they just be confused. It's not magic. So what they do is they wait just enough time and make it just close enough that they just think it's an amazing trick. And that's how they're able to sell it out. They're able to they maintain reality in fiction, which is unfortunately silly for this example, but they know that to have the perfect trick, they can't just do something that seems impossible. Sorry, they can't do something impossible. They have to do something that seems impossible, but just holds enough reality to make it magic. And that's kind of what I got from it.
This might not be a good example, but like if you look at like the show within the show of the Truman Show,
yes,
like everyone's actors except Truman himself.
Yeah.
And I know the whole thing's a movie, so that's not reality. But if the show within the show, like they're all actors putting on this psychomagical experience for Truman.
Yes.
And they're all aware of it, and this is their reality.
Yeah.
But for him,
it's
this psychomagical experience where he believes it's so real that he actually thinks it's his life.
Yes, and that is, and again, you'll notice in the show they don't do crazy things to make him. Very simple. They wouldn't want him to think it's fake.
Normal
life.
They
need him to think it's real to be.
Yeah.
And that is. And we'll very quickly wrap up. Just the idea of no-win scenarios and win-win scenarios. So basically, what the author was going over was that the win-win scenario is so boring. It's just two people that can basically, subconsciously solve it. If I made an artwork piece that you really liked, and I wanted $5,000 for it, you like it more than $5,000, but you don't have to think. We'll just do it, and we'll be happy. But there's no actual thought or autonomy. And that the real test is a no-win scenario, and it would be an example of when basically both parties will lose, and they're both going to fight for everything. A quote that I liked is, the only time you're willing to take a real stand on your values is when you're willing to risk failure. So do you have a thought there?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this might speak more broadly to ethical dilemmas as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Where whichever decision you make,
you're losing. Exactly.
Yeah, and so I think you had a guiding question.
No, actually, you go ahead. My guiding was.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I think if we were on to relate this back to AI, for example.
Yes.
Right?
So that was my guidance. Perfect.
There you go. there you go. And you think about, one that's been pretty prominent these days is how autonomous driving is making decisions when it comes to, if you're about to get hit by a car, do you swerve into people or you just take a hit, right?
Yeah.
And how does it make that decision?
Does it value the driver's life? Does it value if it detects 3 people? Will it save 1 driver to hit 3 people? What does it?
Exactly. And who gets to decide that decision the AI makes?
Yeah.
And that's the real question.
Because at the end of the day, AI is still programmed. At least now it is still programmed by people. So someone, and I remember we learned this, we did this case in ethics, Dr. Arsenic's class. And we had to discuss being the ethics team of Tesla. And one of us would program. And we had to choose who to program to hit what scenarios. Crazy class. So to me, it's kind of the last straw that AI won't quite be able to deal with. I can ask, ChatGPT, do this, and it can do this. But if I were to go say, should I, the trolley problem, should I go and run over it? It has no idea. It wants to give you a solution, but it can't quite quantify that solution. Certainly when it's a loss. A lot of AI is taught to give us what we want to win. And it's very difficult to code something that requires creativity and values.
It requires true understanding. AI doesn't have true human understanding.
Yes.
Who knows? But
that'll be a difficult strategy to reach. True
100%.
Values, and that is what comes.
I did the Tesla thing on Exchange actually in a CSR class, which was cool because there was people from all different backgrounds from all over the world. And we did 100 different scenarios of this Tesla's coming on the street, and it's the 4 people in the car will die, or the 2 old ladies crossing the street, or something like that. And it's then it's no win situation. So I actually asked ChatGPT what it would do, just fitting.
Just curious,
and it's actually scary because like it recognizes that it's not good at no-win scenarios. So just a quick snippet from it here. So no-win scenarios are situations that have no clear solution or outcome can indeed be challenging for AI systems to handle. Again, this is ChatGPT saying this. While AI is capable of analyzing vast amounts of data and making complex decisions based on that data, it still lacks the creativity, intuition, and empathy that humans possess. In many cases, no-win scenarios require a level of emotional intelligence and human judgment that is difficult to replicate with AI.
And I was also curious. I wanted to say there's a lot of examples of this, and the ones in the book were a little bit more like but it's all the same.
It even gave a great example. It said a doctor may be faced with a patient whose condition is deteriorating rapidly, but the available treatment options carry significant risk and uncertainties. In such a scenario, the doctor must weigh the potential benefits and risk of each treatment option and make a decision based on professional judgment and experience. And that's something that, like, as of right now, it's like at the end of the day, a lot of doctors consult the patient. A lot of people that might be old don't want to go through therapy. They'd rather live 1 year well than 3. Yes, and you can look at an infinite amount of data, and nothing will help you with the human side of it.
At the end of the day, it's just it does come to a no-win, and what someone's values end up being. Values are basically an impossible thing.
It also talks about taking most of our jobs. When I asked it this, it says it's important to note that AI can augment and enhance many jobs rather than replacing them entirely. So it's like it gives some examples like doctors and stuff of jobs that it won't really replace, but it basically tells us a lot of jobs are screwed.
I'm happy it let us know what jobs.
Also, we saw this in COVID when we had to decide, like, there wasn't too many hospital beds. We had to decide 2 people. There was 1 hospital bed and 2 people. How do we decide which person gets the hospital bed, right? Yeah. How do we value life like that? Like, I don't think an AI can properly value life like that. So
humans barely can.
Yeah, so it's a difficult choice. But
all right, I think that is it for this episode 3 of the Shared Dreams podcast, and we will see you again on episode 4.